Welcome to Your Mac Life for Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. Show number 1221. My name is Shawn King, joined as always by my lovely co-host.
Hello, everyone. Melissa King here. I'm trying to send Monty a bread recipe.
It's a shame that Monty says that you can't make, because bread's we were talking about this in the pre-show a little earlier. Bread is ridiculously easy to make. I mean, it's literally, water, flour, sugar, salt, yeast. No, not sugar.
Yes.
Sugar, salt, and yeast. That's it.
Yeah, and I think, Monty, there's a lot of bread recipes out there. There are a lot, and if you find one that you like, I used to make one that I really liked. If you find one, stick with it, and then the more success you have, the more likely you are to whip up some lovely fresh bread for the weekend. You know what I mean?
And keep it simple, stupid.
Keep it simple, stupid. Not saying you're stupid, Monty, because you're not.
On tonight's show. By the way, for those folks who are watching it live, I'll fix it in post. We're having a weird audio-video syncing issue. Our apologies. For some reason, it's Wednesday. That's why. There's a strange, even locally here on my iMac, there's an audio sync issue. When I say something, it doesn't show up on my local screen here for a few seconds, which is very strange. It's happened. It's always happened if you're watching the YouTube live. Google Hangouts, it hasn't happened in the past, but now it's happening now. And so I'll fix that in post. On tonight's show, we'll talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. We're going to talk about the new MacBooks. Apple has killed the 12-inch MacBook, upgraded the MacBook Air and the 13-inch MacBook Pro. You can now no longer buy any Mac laptop that doesn't have a touch bar, which is kind of annoying. And also, I think there's only one non-Retina machine left. So if those are issues for you, you're going to have to buy something else. We'll talk about that. A weird rumor about foldable iPads with 5G next year. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. A big story last week was this really odd FaceTime augmented reality eye contact thing that I'm not really crazy about. We'll talk to Jim about that. And then today, the folks at Zoom, who just shut off a giant shitstorm of their own making, have fixed that problem, and we'll talk to Jim about that as well. We've also got a segment of I Have a Question with Melissa. Melissa, tonight your question is?
I have a very special question on behalf of Scott
Randall.
Scott Randall. I get all my Scots mixed up. So stay tuned and I will read it to you. It was very timely because I was trying to think, what question will I ask today? And I got mail from Scott.
Yeah, and especially it was about a segment, thing that you and I have talked about in the past.
Oh.
We're also going to be wrapping this up a little bit early this evening. We have to leave to go drink beer.
We have to leave and run around a brewery and have a tour.
There's a local brewery here called the 101 Brewery, and they are doing a beer 101 session. And I'm a firm believer in now, if you like beer, great. If you don't like beer, that's fine. I would never tell anyone that they had to like beer. But a lot of people who don't like beer don't know what good beer is. I've always had a theory that people who drink Budweiser and Miller and Heineken don't know what good beer tastes like. They haven't been taught. And so whenever I get the opportunity to learn more about beer or to teach other people about beer, I do it. So the local brewery is bringing us down. Melissa's discovering that she hates IPAs, India Pale Ales.
I really don't
They're
enjoy
just
them.
too hoppy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you for the most part. I'm not a big fan of IPAs.
Mm-hmm.
But you do really like Pilsners. And
very
wheat
much. Yes.
And
I like stouts as well.
Yes.
And a Guinness. I'll have a Guinness.
And the thing is, once you learn the style of beer you like, you can then order that style of beer wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if your favorite beer is well, for me, no, sorry, it's a bad example. If your favorite beer is a Pilsner that's brewed in Portland, Oregon, when you go to Toronto and order that same beer or order a beer, and they don't have that brand, you can say, give me a Pilsner. Because if you like Pilsners, in general, you like all Pilsners. If you like wheat beers, in general, you like all wheat beers. If you like IPAs, generally, you'll like IPAs. IPAs have a lot more. IPAs are very, very popular, especially craft breweries, mostly because they're challenging to make and they allow for a wider flavor profile. So brewmasters really like making IPAs because they're fun. They're fun for them.
Right.
They're fun for them as a brewmaster to make.
Right.
They've got a lot of flavor. They've got a lot of robustness to them, and so brewmasters like making them. Not everyone likes drinking them, though. But we've noticed that we've seen a lot of our local brews that we get here in Sunshine Coast. A lot of them are IPAs. And we just
pale ale. I have to be very careful about a pale ale that I choose. I'd have to ask about it before I ordered it.
So so we're going to end up. The show's going to end around 6:45, so we can get down there in time. Something else we had fun last week with the idea of Australian things, and I found another one. Must try Australian food.
What is a must-try Australian food?
Tell the audience what lamington is.
Oh, my goodness. A lamington is...
It's the national cake of Australia. I did not know this.
It's a very, very light, lovely, buttery sponge cake rolled in like a cocoa chocolatey coating that sticks to it and then rolled in coconut.
Why did we have lamington when I was in Australia? Your national cake.
You don't like coconut.
I hate coconut.
That's why I didn't even think about giving you a lamington.
Meat pie.
Well, that's like a cultural thing. I mean,
but how is a meat pie in Australia different from a meat pie we'd get here in Canada?
There's just something about them. I don't know what to say.
Pavlova.
Oh, well, pavlova is the meringue, fruit-covered piles of fruit, cream, yummy dessert.
Vegemite.
Well, I don't think anybody wants me to talk about Vegemite. Nobody likes Vegemite. So.
Except Australians.
It's the scrape of the bottom of the beer barrel.
But it's different from Marmite, which is
very
a British
much,
thing.
yes.
And you don't like Marmite, why?
Marmite has a sweetness to it. I mean, Vegemite is just pure salty.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the zing of salt.
Yep.
I don't think it has salt in it, but it's just the actual flavor of it. But Marmite has a sweetness that I'm not fond of.
How do you eat Vegemite? You just is it a spread that you put on bread and crackers, that kind of stuff, or you mix it in things?
It's primarily a spread, very, 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 very lightly, just a touch of it on buttered toast. But my grandmother used to dilute it in warm water, and she would brush it on her baked potatoes. And then she'd stick them in the oven, and they'd be deliciously wonderful.
Tim Tams.
Oh, do you know what Tim Tams?
I did not know Tim Tams were Australian.
Oh,
though.
very much. No, we practice this sucking your tea through your Tim Tam thing. And when we were in Australia, Shawn I remember, because we really did
my God.
We loved to go shopping there. It was just and for me, it was a whole nostalgic thing going, oh my God, look, Shawn. But when he went to the aisle that had the Tim Tams, he was like a little kid.
Oh, there was like 50 different varieties.
Oh my God, look at all the Tim Tams.
It was ridiculous.
Yes.
You had Black Forest cake Tim Tams.
I know.
Which is just bizarre.
Well, that's all new. When I was growing up in Australia, it was just, the Tim Tam.
But like I said, I didn't know Tim Tam. And we only get two flavors. You get
you get a dark chocolate
chocolate.
and a milk chocolate, and then you also have one with caramel or something in it.
Caramel. But there was a white chocolate Tim Tams, and there was, like I said, Black Forest cake Tim Tams, and all kinds of different Tim Tams.
Oh, it's like a quarter of a supermarket aisle.
The idea, though, that you would stick your Tim Tam in your tea and then suck your tea through the Tim Tam just cracks me up.
Yummy.
Wouldn't it fall apart after a while? I mean, the liquid of the tea, wouldn't that dissolve the inside of the Tim Tam?
Well, you don't leave it in there for too long.
It's quick dunk?
Oh, yes.
Well, okay. So you're not talking about using the Tim Tam as a straw.
No, I think people will. To be very honest, I never did that practice. So,
Barramundi. I've never heard of this. What is barramundi?
Barramundi is a fish.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of fish?
I don't know very much about barramundi.
It says native to Australia, barramundi is a mild and flaky fish that gets its name for the Aboriginal language meaning large-scale river fish.
Mm.
You find it in most menus in Australia, although I never saw it.
Yeah, it's very, very common.
Anzac biscuits.
Anzac biscuits are made for the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. Like it's like your Remembrance Day here. We have Anzac Day.
Yeah.
And so it's a very specific cookie that's made on that day. And the reason why the cookie, historically, it became the Anzac cookie was because women could make them and send them overseas because they don't have egg in them, I believe. So they stayed fresh. They stayed that their men could eat them when they got there. So they became Anzac biscuits.
Aussie burger. Now, before we go any further, it sounds like it's just a burger, right? It's got a bun, correct?
Yes.
One on the bottom, one on the top.
Yeah.
It's got meat in the middle.
Yes.
It's got lettuce, I suppose.
Yeah.
Tomato.
Yes. Yeah.
Cheese.
Yeah. If you want. Yeah.
Ketchup. Or
Tomato sauce. Yes.
Relish. You have relish?
If you want pickles.
Mustard? Pickles. Mustard.
If you want.
And then you all go crazy.
Oh, you mean because of beets? We put beetroot. We have beetroot with everything in Australia.
They put a big, thick slice of beet in the middle.
It's not that thick. It's, just a big in the middle of there.
Like we would put a slice of onion on there. You put a beet.
Oh, yeah.
That's just so odd. And I love beets.
And then a ring of pineapple.
Wait. What?
Pineapple.
On your hamburger? Oh, that's just nasty.
Yeah, yummy.
No. That's disgusting. That's disgusting.
It is very good. Hawaiian burger. No, says MacMan. No, yuck, ew. Ew times 2, says MacMan.
And finally, kangaroo.
Kangaroo is a marsupial that there's lots of them.
No, it's food.
Oh, I've never eaten kangaroo.
You have the look on your face like you never would.
Well,
That'd be like an American eating a bald eagle. Or a Canadian eating a beaver. You don't eat your national animal.
I know. Well, you guys almost killed yours. We cull ours. No, I've never eaten kangaroo. I have no idea what it's like.
I saw frozen kangaroo patties.
Yeah.
In the supermarket, and Melissa wouldn't let me buy them. But yeah, it's such a weird thing to think that you would eat your national animal.
I didn't want Rory there to say, "Oh, what's for dinner?" Oh, kangaroo. Rory would have been just mortified. He would have just said, "No, we are not doing that." He would have been so sad. Yeah.
But it's such an odd idea.
Oh, listen to Mo. You guys, you're going to put me right off my shrimp and Nutella sandwich.
It's just such an odd idea that you would eat the national animal of your country. I think if your national anthem was a chicken, you wouldn't eat it, even though chickens are edible, obviously. It's just something about the idea of eating the national animal that just puts me off.
But people eat buffalo and things like that. So, I mean, they're part of your history and they're very, I don't know.
I wonder if we don't eat beaver because they don't taste good.
I don't know. Well, why wouldn't they? You think they would. They only eat vegetation.
But you'd think that through the history of Canada, because for those our American friends who don't know this, the beaver literally built Canada. The beaver is the reason why Canada became populated, because of its pelt. But you'd think they would have used the meat as food. But I've never heard of anyone.
Oh, well, they
meat
mustn't taste very good
exactly.
then. Yeah.
Anyway, as we said later on, as we said, the show will be cut 15 minutes short because we have to get out of here in time for a Beer 101 session. Melissa has a question from an audience member, Scott Randall. Thank you, Scott, for sending in that question. We appreciate it. But up next, we're going to talk to our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. This is your Mac Life. No, I can give you more time if you want it. Welcome back, folks. Thanks very much for joining us here on the show this Wednesday evening or in the archive, if that's how you so choose to be tuned in. In our phone now, we've got our good friend Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. Jim, how you doing?
Doing good, Shawn. How are you?
I'm good. You have posted, for those folks who use Zoom, the video conferencing app, Apple has pushed out a fix for the utter stupidity that Zoom has perpetrated on its users. Basically, Zoom was doing stuff behind the scenes that they bloody well shouldn't have been doing. But you posted up on The Loop, you said that when you said that Apple had done this, that it was a good thing that Apple had pushed out this update, even though they did it behind the scenes. You don't have a problem with Apple reaching into your machine and making changes to it?
So I've contacted Apple about that. We don't know yet exactly what's going on with that.
Yeah.
So I will reserve judgment until they get back to me and I figure out exactly what's happening there, which is why I reached out to them in the first place.
Good.
Just to clarify a couple of points, like what if you have automatic updates turned off?
Yes.
And, a few other questions. So I obviously I was concerned enough that I contacted Apple to find out.
Yeah.
But I really don't know what to say about it because anything right now would just be speculation and, I don't know.
Now, I know Apple does do this in other situations where they will update malware definitions behind the scenes and those kind of things. They will add things to our Apple TV without our knowledge, permission, or with our knowledge or permission. This could be the same thing. If Apple is doing that, would you have a problem with it?
See, I mean, it's a slippery slope, right? Yeah. In this kind of a circumstance, probably not, because people have Zoom cameras and all of a sudden they're vulnerable because Zoom is such an idiotic company.
Yep.
I will never recommend or buy one of their products.
Yep.
But, at what point does that become the norm?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a slippery slope. But I want to find out from Apple exactly the reasoning and everything behind it.
And make no mistake about it, Zoom is the actual bad guy here. Apple is just doing what they think is best for their customer. Well, I happen to disagree with that particular method if they're reaching to our machines, but they're trying to do what's best for their customer base.
Apple is trying to block a pretty horrendous vulnerability left by a third-party developer. So if you install this and then uninstall it, the web server stays running, the Zoom thing. So, Apple is doing everything that it can to protect its customers, and I get that. And I said when I posted it, thank you.
Yeah.
because there are a lot of people that may have installed this and just never knew that there was a web server running,
Yep.
and could be vulnerable. So Apple's this silent update is set to fix that issue.
And the worst part of what Zoom did wasn't necessarily the local host web server, because the way it was set up is that it could only take instructions, in theory, from the Zoom client. But what they also did was, if you did uninstall Zoom, if you did delete the app and assume it was gone, and then went to a website that said, click here, it would then reinstall itself and send you to wherever that click here link was. If it happened to be a company you want to do business with, fantastic, but there was no guarantee of that. That's where the real issue came, was that once you uninstalled it, they made it so that it would automatically reinstall itself without you knowing behind the scenes. And then on top of that came their response on Monday, which was ridiculously stupid, where they said,
"Oh no, their response was fine. Oh, absolutely fine."
No. Their response was, "This is a feature, not a bug."
Yeah, that was fine.
Oh yeah, not a problem.
Yeah, not a problem at all with that. Yeah, it's a feature.
And the thing is, it's one of those things that they knew beforehand this is what they were doing. They can't hide that. You code these things specifically this way. But when you get caught doing it, you then you then don't say, "Oh, we're not going to fix this." What are you, shitting me?
Yeah.
I wonder how fast people at Apple got on the phone to the Zoom CEO going, "No, dumbass, you're going to fix this."
Yeah, now.
Immediately.
Oh God. Yeah, I mean, there's this sounds like something Facebook would do.
Yes,
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, oh no, it's fine. Yeah, no, everything is good. Look how sunny it is out. Yeah,
It's one of those things, and this is another reason why Apple wants to be as secure as they possibly can. This is the kind of stuff that Tim Cook bangs on about, and people sort of go, "Oh, stop talking, old man. It's not as bad as you say it is." No, it's worse than he says it is.
Well, Apple is always talking about, these threats, and they're real.
Yep.
Because there's something that we do every day. We surf the web. So those threats of privacy and security are real because they're there on the web. The advertising agencies and the advertising, conglomerate board, whatever it is, you can tell that the threats are real because they get so upset when Apple implements safeguards for its users.
Yep, that's right.
So when you look at something like this, like a third-party developer that is doing this on purpose to people who install that. Now, luckily, I've never installed one of their products, so I did check though just to make sure.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the stuff that Tim talks about is real, and it affects us. And if you look at when you start to tell people, when you start to talk about security and privacy, people will, they start to fall asleep.
Yep.
Right. But when you start to talk, because they say, well, I don't do that. I don't get involved in those things.
Yep.
But when you start to tell people, well, security and privacy is all about the fact that, you visit a website and those ads are being tracked and every click you make is being tracked. Well, then it affects us all. So, at some point people will take it seriously, but I will judge how seriously people take it when Facebook stops making billions a quarter.
Yeah, no kidding. Speaking of moves that Apple is making, this one got a lot of attention, and it was another one of those things where I thought, are we actually saying this is okay? FaceTime feature in iOS 13 feigns eye contact during video calls. And my first thought was, really? This is something Apple's working on? That people not looking at their camera, looking at their screen instead of their camera on FaceTime calls is so bothersome that Apple sent a team of researchers to figure out how to fix this. And then the fix to me, seems really freaking creepy. It's
No,
the
I think it's a good fix. I
yeah,
really do.
but what
Because-
happens if the Apple then decides, okay, now that you're looking at the screen, we're going to make you smile?
No, look, I've been on many FaceTime or Skype chats
Yep.
where your natural reaction when you're talking to somebody is to look at them
Yes,
for most people.
absolutely.
So you're looking away from the camera. So you're looking at them. And I find myself doing this like on podcasts where I do video.
Yep.
And I have to now I've trained myself to look at the camera when I'm speaking,
Yep.
not at the person. And it feels wrong to do that. So I get where all this is coming from, and it's a very clever solution to the problem, because when you're looking at the person that's talking to you, it doesn't look like they're actually looking at you, but they are.
And
You know,
that's
they're
why it's
looking at you
creepy.
No. What I mean right now, it doesn't look like they're looking at you because they're looking up in the corner, but they're actually looking at you in the camera. You know,
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make any sense. So this fix actually makes sense because it will appear that the person is looking at you when they're actually looking at you in the camera, and or in the FaceTime chat, in that little window that you get.
Yep.
So I think it's a pretty clever fix. I was impressed when I read about that. I'll be honest. Like that was pretty cool.
I knew from the very beginning when I first started doing video for the show that I needed to look up at that screen because people were watching the video, and I wanted to make it seem like I was talking directly to the audience. So what I did was I put a little.
Yeah, but you pre-record that yesterday,
No.
so you know.
I put a little sticker, a little sticky note right up near the camera, and the sticky note said "Look here," and I left that up there for years. It said "Look here," so it always remind me to look at that point and not look at myself on the video window. I think that's part of it was easier too, because I wasn't talking to someone else, I was looking at myself, and who the hell wants to look at me? So I looked up at that camera.
Yeah. Not even your wife wants you
No,
to look at you.
that's why she wears the eye mask at night. You know, she walks around the house that way.
She texts me all the time, and I didn't want to bring it up, but now that you did,
I was wondering where those Speedo shots came from, because that wasn't me. That wasn't me. Little budgie smugglers, as they call them. They call them budgie smugglers in Australia.
No.
Speedos are called budgie smugglers.
Wow.
There's a mental image for you.
I nor your listeners needed that mental image.
But the funniest thing for me is like everyone seemed to think this was some sort of big deal. I guess it was to people, but people didn't seem to think the fix wasn't a little bit creepy. I actually got Gruber to admit it. He posted something, and then I said, "No, dude, it's creepy." And the next day he goes, "You know what? I thought about it. It's creepy." It's the idea that Apple is reconfiguring our reality, even to a small degree, that I'm not crazy about. I hope this is a feature I can turn on and off with my choice, not have it come on automatically. You know what I'm saying?
No, I get the whole creepiness part. I get all of that, but you have to admit, for the situation that I described, when you're looking at the small corner of the screen, when you're supposed to be looking at somebody and talking to them, this is an ingenious fix.
Yep.
Right? So if you can turn it off, then that's great. I get all of what you're saying. I just think it's an ingenious fix.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the fact that it's an ingenious fix. It's just one that I A, don't think we need, and B, is just a little bit creepy.
Well, I mean, you're a little bit creepy.
Well,
too,
yeah, there's that too.
know.
Apple announced yesterday new MacBook Airs, new updated MacBook Pros, and killing of the 12-inch MacBook. Is it a day of mourning for the 12-inch MacBook, or do you not care?
No, look, Apple has said its product line. There was definitely some misfits going on there, and now it's cleaned up.
Yep.
And to me, that's about the end of the story.
Yeah.
I mean, Jason Snell wrote something I agreed wholeheartedly with on Macworld. I just think when things start to get out of hand with Apple, with their product line, they are very good at cleaning it up.
Yeah.
At one point, the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro all made sense for their own reasons and for their own feature sets. But it got to a point where, the better featured product was actually lower than the worst featured product.
Yeah.
And, it just didn't make sense anymore. So what did Apple do? They do what they do best, and they cleaned up the matrix of their product line. And now it's very simple for somebody to go in and figure out what they want.
Yeah, it certainly is, as you said, cleaned up the product line. Do you think this was, some people are going to say it was, okay, now that Johnny Ive is gone, they're going to start killing off his...
bullshit.
His,
no, that's just bullshit.
I agree.
I mean, Johnny didn't make the specs for the products and what they're going to have. I mean, it's not like this happened last month and all of a sudden they're killing it. This has been going on for a number of years.
Yep.
And it's simply Apple clearing up the confusion. And yeah, there was confusion. There can be no doubt about that. When a better product costs less than a worse product,
yeah.
You got a problem. And maybe what Jason said in his article is true, that Apple was trying to get people to buy this other product, the MacBook, and they just wouldn't bite.
Yeah.
They went for the Air instead. So, okay, well then it's clear. This is what we have to do. So they did it. And I don't think it's wrong. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it certainly didn't have anything to do with Johnny.
Yeah.
It didn't have anything to do with anybody. It had to do with the product. So,
Apple knows how many MacBooks they sell. They know how many Airs they sell. They know how many Pros they sell of every single size. Apple knows they have to sell X numbers of these things per month, per year, per quarter, whatever it might be. I can guarantee you they looked at the bottom line and said, these things aren't selling. Let's get them out of there, make room for give the Air and the Pro, for lack of a better way to describe it, room to breathe. Because before it was MacBook and the MacBook Pro, and that was your consumer level and your Pro level. Now you've got the Air, which is kind of your consumer level, and the Pro, which is your Pro level. Everything makes sense again.
Can you imagine being one of the people at the Apple store and somebody comes in and asks you the difference between the Air and the MacBook?
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, Apple did what it needed to do.
Yep. And I have no problem with it. It's
I have
they've still
no
got
issue with it at all.
Good machines. The only downside I see is there's no longer a machine that doesn't have the touch bar. I'm in the market for a new MacBook Pro or Air at some point in the near future. I don't want the touch bar. I don't need the touch bar. I'm never going to use the touch bar, but I'm now going to have to buy the damn touch bar. So
yeah, I get that. I don't. We've talked about this many times too, and I don't use the touch bar much. I'm sure that there are a lot of developers that wouldn't like the touch bar, but clearly, for the Pro, it's the way that Apple is going, for that market. So
Apple,
you get a touch bar.
You get a touch bar, and you get a touch bar. Apple posted an interesting ad on their Apple Singapore YouTube page touting Face ID as more secure than Touch ID in a new ad. Last week we talked about Apple removing Face ID from a rumored China-specific iPhone, and now these rumors are coming up that Apple's going to remove Touch ID in a foldable iPad with 5G. Sorry, in a phone next year that is
Yeah.
going to have Touch ID, Face ID taken out of it.
Right,
One of these
right.
things is wrong.
And it also shoots lasers and pulls monkeys out of your ass.
Can you see a point where Apple removes Face ID from, let's say, the US-based iPhone and puts Touch ID back in?
No.
No, they're not going to do that. There is no
No.
way Apple's going to remove Face ID.
Face ID is it.
Apple
That's
said
the
it from
thing.
they said it from the beginning. They've said it all along. They believe, and I don't have any reason to doubt them. They believe that Face ID is more secure than Touch ID. A segment of Apple is a security-focused company now. They like the security of Face ID. They're not removing it. They might remove it for a Chinese-specific iPhone or a low-cost U.S. iPhone, just slightly above an iPod Touch kind of thing. But they're not taking it out of the high-end models. Not going to happen.
I don't even know if they would do it for that, to be honest.
And that even that would be a stretch.
At this point, privacy is so important and security is so important. I think they would find a way to put Face ID in there, regardless.
That's right. Even if it meant cutting the margins a bit more.
I think they would almost have to, because you can't go on and preach like Tim does and Apple does, and I believe in my heart that they actually believe what they say about privacy and security. This isn't a marketing thing. They believe it. So if you believe it, you can't bring out a product without it. I mean, how do you do that?
You can't turn around in a relatively short period of time and say, oh yeah, all that stuff we talked about Face ID 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, we don't believe that anymore. We've made Touch ID even more secure. There's no way they could do that. They would get destroyed for that.
Well, I don't Touch ID. If they had something in there, that would be good. But if they didn't have anything, any kind of security, then that would be bad. I mean, they just couldn't do that. But Touch ID is very secure.
Yes.
Face ID is even better.
Yep. And there are actually times when I prefer Touch ID.
Sure.
Because Face ID requires you picking the phone up and holding it a certain distance away from you. If you're lying in bed and I use my iPhone as a remote for my Apple TV, if I want to do something to the Apple TV, fast forward or choose something, I've got to pick the phone up, hold it in front of my face to allow Face ID to identify me, and then I can use the Apple remote. Yes, I do. I do it every night.
You could just type in your password right beside you. It would be nice and easy.
But not as easy as Touch ID in that situation.
Well, I think you're making up stories.
No, I still got to pick the phone up and look at the screen in order to type in my password.
Or you could just use the remote.
I lost the remote.
Oh, you silly son of a bitch.
And my other remote's battery died, so I have to use my iPhone.
Why didn't I think of that? Of course you lost your remote.
Of course.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. I lose everything, dude. Everyone knows that.
I'm surprised you haven't lost your motorcycle.
I know. I've actually walked away from it with the keys inside of it. How's that?
Well, that's pretty close to losing.
Yeah. If it wasn't for the nice man who took the keys out and brought them to me, I could have lost the damn motorcycle. So yeah, I'm a doofus. The most amazing rumor I saw all week has got to be the fact that the supposed guru of rumors when it comes to this kind of stuff says that Apple is going to bring out, wait for it, a 5G cellular iPad next year that's foldable.
Right.
A foldable iPad 5G next year. So 2020, September.
Yep.
How stupid is this rumor?
Look, I mean, we talk about things that Apple does. And when Apple does release a product and they say, we've been working on this for 5 years
Yes.
or longer or whatever. So is Apple working on foldable screens? Probably.
Yes.
They're probably working on iPhones that are half as thick as what we have now. And, again, pull monkeys out of your ass and shoot lasers. But is the technology ready for a foldable iPad?
No.
Well, right now, no. And I think, recent releases will show that. So is Apple working on something? Yeah, they probably got prototypes in there. Does it work? I'd be shocked if it did.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'd be absolutely shocked if it did. I mean, we've been around a long time.
Yep.
And, Apple is still relying on Samsung. And I think based on Samsung's last release of a foldable product, it didn't go so well.
not so much.
So
It's a bit of a failure.
Now, is Apple doing something on their own? Maybe. I certainly wouldn't put it past them. That company spends a lot on R&D.
Yep.
So, but again, is it ready?
I
don't think so.
The other aspect about this is I don't think the market is ready. The consumers are ready. Yeah, there's a certain segment of nerds and technorati and pundits who want this foldable phone or iPad or tablet.
I don't know why, though.
Neither do I. I think it's just because it's the next cool, fun thing. It's 3D TV all over again. It's 8K TV all over again. It's that kind of stuff. It's a Google Glass all over again. They just want the latest, greatest shiny. But the average consumer has not asked for a foldable version of these devices.
Well, and that's the funny part, isn't it?
And until that happens, I don't think even if Apple has one that's ready today, they're not going to bring that out. Because if they brought it out today, they'd be compared to the failure of Samsung's products, and that would hurt sales. So they want to get as far away from that as they possibly can. iPhone sales aren't falling off that much. There's going to be a new one coming in September, which will probably juice sales again. They don't need to bring out a foldable phone. They're certainly not going to bring out a 5G phone in the near future, maybe next year, but even then, that's going to depend on the rollout to various American cities. So, yeah, Apple's not bringing in a foldable iPad anytime soon, certainly not a foldable iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, it's not to say never, but I just don't think that the technology is there right now.
No, agreed. But I think this is very interesting.
Here we go.
No. You saw it. Everyone saw it. The video of Jeff Williams, Apple's chief operating officer, back in 2017, doing a little thing. This kind of stuff happens all the time. These are little political events, commercial events that, for the most part, get ignored. That the local senator or congressperson comes to an opening of a shopping mall or that kind of stuff. Well, this was Jeff Williams at the Corning glass manufacturing plant in Kentucky, talking about this new product. He told this fascinating story of how Tim Cook, and you and I were at that original launch of the iPhone in 2007. Now, we didn't get our hands on it. Nobody did.
I did.
No, you didn't. Not the first day.
I got it the day before.
You got it the day before it went on sale.
Right.
I'm talking about the launch in January at Macworld.
Oh, no. Nobody even got to see that.
No.
There were only like 3 of them.
And they didn't work, as we found out later. They had that one in that spinny little glass enclosed thing. Do you remember that? Yep. Just spinning around there. That didn't even work either. It was just a mock-up. But they had 3 working iPhones at the time. So Williams tells this amazing story about how Cook says, this thing is crap. Redesign it, basically. With technology that's not even available.
Yep.
And Williams said to Jobs, we can't do that. And Jobs said, yeah, you can. That was an amazing story.
And that's what is so priceless about Steve.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't like the plastic front. He wanted glass. There was no glass to do it. He called Corning and said, your product sucks.
Yep, that's right.
And they pulled it together in 6 months.
Yep.
6 months they pulled it together.
Basically, Corning invented new technology in 6 months.
Well, no, I mean they had a prototype of things that they were working on.
Yep.
So, but basically, they took it from an idea of something that could be done to shipping millions of them in 6 months, which is absolutely stunning that they were able to do that. And you know, now it's the product we know as Gorilla Glass.
Yes.
You know, it's tough and it doesn't shatter like regular glass would, and you know, I mean, it was amazing.
The other aspect,
what they were able to do.
The other aspect of that story that I absolutely love is the fact that I think 95% of all CEOs in that same situation would have said, this thing gets really scratchy, can we fix it? And your operating officer goes, yeah, not for a couple of years. And the CEO would have gone, shit, okay, well, we'll have to deal with it. But Jobs didn't do that. Apple didn't do that. They said, Jobs said, do better. And the people at Apple said, yes, we will. We can.
Yep.
We'll push ourselves and our suppliers and technology and our manufacturing. We're going to push them to they drop.
Let's not forget that Corning was not even a supplier at that time.
Right.
They were just, you know, this CEO is just sitting back smoking a cigar that day. Jobs calls him and tells him that his product sucks. And they are not even buying anything from them.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so, yeah, Corning wasn't even a supplier.
Yeah. It's just...
So, unless they were supplying the plastic, which I don't think so.
They weren't. They weren't.
So, you know, imagine sitting there all comfy in your big-ass chair, and all of a sudden Steve Jobs is on the phone telling you how much your company sucks.
Yeah. And by the way, we want you to make glass for this product we're not going to show you or tell you anything about, but you got 6 months to do it in quantity.
Now, and call Jeff.
That's right.
I'll figure out the details for you.
Click.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah,
but that's why Steve was Steve.
Yep.
That is exactly why Steve was Steve.
And
he didn't like that it scratched in his pocket.
Yep. And the idea that he had hired people, Cook and Williams and Ive, who didn't say to him, no, you're an idiot. We can't do that. Go away. They said, yes, sir, we'll try. We'll do our best. We'll get this done. They were as dedicated to this stuff as Jobs was.
Well, it's either that or, you know, feel the wrath.
That's right, exactly.
And nobody liked to feel the wrath.
Speaking of feel the wrath, another good segue. You were off in the great state of Texas last week between Dallas and Austin. You posted this on Twitter. I thought this was really odd, and I want to find out why you said this. You tweeted, "Dear Californians, just got back from a week in Texas. They hate you. If you're moving there, you might want to take the holier-than-thou attitude down about 6% and respect the state you're moving to." The hell brought that on, dude?
So, I know a lot of people in Texas.
Yes.
They're friends that I've in the music industry, friends in technology, and just friends.
Yes.
That over the past 25 years that I've talked to, and a lot of them I got to see when I was down there because I was in Dallas and then I drove down to Austin, and there was a common theme between Dallas and Austin. And one of my longtime friends, grew up in Austin.
Yeah.
And he said, you just moved from Canada to California, and I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. You might not want to tell people in Texas you're from California. And I said, okay, well, why? Because that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
He said, tell people you're from Canada. And one guy that I met, and surprisingly, he was in a bar, He said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Canada." And he said, "Oh, thank God. I thought you might be from another one from California."
Ouch.
And yeah. So talking to my friends, and I actually asked this guy about, well, what's wrong with California?
Yeah.
And it may surprise some people that responded back on that thread thought it was about politics.
Yep.
And it's not as much about politics as attitude. So from what I gather from friends, people from California are moving down there, and they bring this attitude like, we are much better people than you, and we are going to school you on how to be better people.
Yeah.
And the Texans are looking at them like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, you know, I mean, so it's got nothing to do with whether you're Democrat or Republican or whatever else they have down here. It's all about that we're just better than you are. And my friends were saying, you know, we don't mind people coming down here, but when they come down, you know, just respect the state, respect where you are.
Yeah.
When I moved from Canada to California, I mean, things are different here than what they are in Canada. I respect that, and I've tried to respect everything that is Californian, and that is not what Californians are doing when they move to Texas.
But
they are literally hated. One guy that moved from California to Texas said on Twitter, "I absolutely agree, and if I can offer another piece of advice, change your license plates immediately."
as soon as you get to cross the state line, that's right.
Yeah.
Go straight to the DMV.
Take those license plates off.
But that being said, Texans have their own version of that. They can be very abrasive. Everything's bigger in Texas when they leave their state. You know, everything is better and bigger and greater than in Texas than they are anywhere else.
The message from that tweet was to respect wherever you're going to move.
Sure, I agree. No matter who you are.
Right. So if you're in Texas, and I don't think anybody has ever moved out of Texas that was born in Texas. Would they move? I don't think so. I don't think anybody has ever moved out of Texas. But I think now that, you know, that Austin is very, very tech savvy, and they are, you know, they've got Google, and they've got Apple is down there,
yep.
And they've got, you know, all of these tech companies. Dell is down there. You know, so there are a lot of tech companies down there, and they're attracting a lot of people from California who are moving down there because it's cheaper to live, and, you know, all of this kind of stuff. But they're bringing a bad attitude with them. And, you know, I think with the amount that they're hated right now, they just need to take a step back and say, ooh, you know, because they really do hate them. Really, truly.
Well, it was a funny tweet, and I appreciate you giving me the backgrounds on it. Folks, we're talking to Jim Dalrymple of The Loop at loopinsight.com. His podcast is up on the iTunes store. It's called The Dalrymple Report with Dave Mark. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Shawn.
Talk to you next week, buddy.
Bye.
See ya. That was funny. That Jim posted that tweet, and I was like, the hell? What's going on there? And I guess that's the story of what's going on there. Folks, when we come back, we're going to talk to Melissa. She has a question for the I Have a Question segment. This is Your Mac Life. Welcome back, folks. Thank you guys very much for joining us here this Wednesday evening or in the archive if you so choose to be tuned into the show in that particular manner. We've got our regular segment. By the way, if you have any questions, Melissa has her own email address. It is Melissa, MELISSA, at yourmaclifeshow.com. You can send her emails anytime you'd like.
You can.
What's this week's email?
Oh, so this week we have a question from Scott Randall.
Scott Randall, yes.
And I'm so happy to ask you this question, Shawn. He says, Melissa, I have a suggestion for your I Have a Question segment. Shawn frequently mentions RSS readers.
Yes.
For that reason, I downloaded one on my iPad and found there is a small learning curve. I'm experimenting with it, and it looks pretty good. Okay, so here's the question. I think you should ask this. What is an RSS reader? What is the advantage of using one, and how do you use it? Full disclosure, laugh out loud, I could use a few tips. Regards, Scott. Thank you, Scott. Fire away, Shawn.
Now, this is something you and I have talked about. And by the way, you'll see Melissa get up and run out of the room
Bread.
in a second. She's making bread. She's such a domestic goddess.
I'm so sorry.
She sits here. She's a podcaster. She's a mom. She's a weightlifter. And now she's a bread
And I'm a
maker.
landscaper.
That's right. RSS reader. First of all, we'll back up. RSS is an acronym for Really Simple Syndication. Okay? So one of the things is, if you go to a website, say especially news websites, or a website that's not updated very often, say a friend's blog. So Melissa writes a blog. I'm using this as an example. And you don't post every single day. You post on a Wednesday, and then maybe the next Friday, and then Tuesday. But I have to keep going to your website to see when you have a new post at X interval, whether that's every hour, every day, every 2 or 3 days, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a pain. I have to have a bookmark for your website, and I have to go to it first thing in the morning on Wednesday, and then maybe Wednesday evening, and then Thursday afternoon. Wouldn't it be better if you, Melissa, could tell me, Shawn, when you posted a blog post? And you can do that with notifications. And that's what RSS actually is. It's a kind of a notification system for
like
websites.
Facebook has, if you have notifications.
Similar. Exactly, very similar. Except there's a fundamental difference. So you get these notifications, but you get them in an RSS reader. So rather than popping up on your phone as a notification on your screen, or popping up when you're in Facebook and the little thing pops up the side and says so-and-so has just commented on your post, it pops up in an RSS reader. And there's all kinds of them out there. The most common one, if not the most popular one, is Google's version called Feedly, FEEDLY.com. And so you sign up with your Google Gmail address or your any other address or Facebook. Don't do it via Facebook. You sign up and you say, okay, Feedly, RSS reader, I've now signed up to your service. Start showing me stuff. It can't. It doesn't know what stuff you want. It doesn't know what information you want to give it. So what you got to do, and I've started up a new RSS Feedly thing here. I'm going to cover up my beautiful wife's face to show this to you guys. So this is what Feedly looks like when you first go to the page. It says, so I've signed in. Create your first feed. Discover the best sources for any topic. Okay. So let's say your topic is Apple. You just type Apple in there and look at all of the options you have for Apple. Sources, Apple Insider, latest movie trailers, Apple Ars Technica, blah, 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 blah. So you have a bunch of options for these sorts of things. So let's say Apple Insider. We'll click on Apple Insider. And it says Apple Insider front page news. And over here it says follow. So I click on follow. New feed, and we'll call it Apple News. Great. Bada bing! Now over here on the other side of the page, it says feeds, Apple News, and it always grabs the last 10 news bits. And then you click on this, and here are, let me just do this in a simpler way, title only. So here's all in the last 8 hours, 7 hours, 7 hours, 6 hours, Apple Insider has posted these news items. So I didn't go to Apple Insider's website. Feedly did that for me, went to Apple Insider's website and said, hey, Apple Insider, show me all the latest news items that Apple Insider has posted. And Apple Insider's website goes, oh, yeah, here we go. It's this one, this one, this one, this one. And Feedly says, Shawn, here they are. And you can look at them in this view. This is called the list view, where it's just text, just straight up and down text. You can look at it in a magazine view, where you get a little graphic, whatever Apple Insider has posted for their graphics. And you can also get it in a, come on, stop it, go away. You can also get it in a cards view and article view. I like title view because it's the most information, the densest possible way. It's all right there, just the headlines. So you read a headline, 2020 iPhone to reduce true depth notch. Well, I want to look at that. So I'll click on it, and there's the story. I still haven't gone to appleinsider.com. Now, the downside of appleinsider.com.
What if they need clicks or
exactly.
something?
They don't. So what they'll do.
So sorry, go on. Fine.
So what they'll do is then it says visit website. So if you want more information after reading the headline, look after reading the stop it, because this is brand new. It's giving me all this.
Is it a summary?
It's a summary, exactly. And Apple Insider decides what the summary is going to be.
Oh.
Some websites won't show you the whole thing. So, for example, let's go to. So now I've got one feed in my newsreader, and that's Apple Insider. So let's say I want to add another one. I'd go down here to where it says add content. You folks in the web can't see it, but there's in the lower left it says add content. I click again. I can just do a search for, I know, Macworld. Macworld. So there we go. Sources, Macworld News. I click there, and now here's all the different RSS links for Macworld. I can choose which ones I want. Macworld. If you want just Macworld reviews, you can grab just the reviews. If you want everything from Macworld, you can click follow. So I'll click follow, add it to my news feed, Apple, create.
And what if it's someone's blog? Can you add something that they like? Do you just add that in? You just oh, okay.
So, perfect example. Our friend John Binky Welch, Binky.com. So here is Binky's website. Now Binky doesn't post very often. He's a fairly infrequent poster. But I don't want to go to Binky's website every day to see if he's posted something new. I just want to find out when he posts something. So I can take Binky's URL, go back to my newsreader, click add content, and then type in Binky.com. Hit enter, and there it is. So Binky has set up an RSS news feed for his website. I click follow. I put it in, say, Apple News, add, and boom. Now
it seems very user friendly. What
really
would Scott be? I wonder, having what's his learning curve?
Well, look at this.
That he's climbing.
I could type in occupational therapy, and there's all the sources for occupational therapy news.
Oh.
So you can click on these and create your own news feed of occupational therapy, and then you can add your others, whatever other ones you want to find.
But I'm sorry, are you saying that?
Oops, sorry.
If you put in occupational therapy, that there's articles and things?
Yes.
Are they
these
not
are
research articles?
No. These are sources. So it says sources here. Let me make this big for the audience so they can see it. Oops, and this one. So it says sources here. So this is occupational therapy notes, occupational therapy, a blog about OT, occupational therapy for kids. And so let's click on one. And so this occupational therapy, scientific understanding, artful practice. So you can go down here.
How very interesting. I would love that. I gotta do this.
So now what you can do is that these people will, when they post, they'll instead of you going to their website to get this information, their information comes to you.
So it's a shortcut.
It's a shortcut. There's all kinds of feed readers too. You can get feed readers for the iPad, for your iPhone, for your Mac. I use Feedly in my browser on my desktop because that's the way I get the most amount of information. When I've tried using it on the iPhone or the iPad, the screen's too small for me. And I don't work that way. I don't work where I'm going to read my RSS feed, because my RSS feed is mostly for news, for Apple, and the stuff I'm interested in when I'm sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
So I will go through those very, very quickly. And so my RSS feed is probably 300 different sources.
Oh.
Now that means I'm not going to 300 different websites.
That's right.
Every morning.
That's awesome.
I'm going through this list and reading these stories and just reading the headlines real quick. I can read the headlines. Oh, that one's interesting. Click. Never mind. And go through them that way. So it's really simple syndication. It's easy to set up. Again, you just Feedly. And the other thing, the other thing too is that.
I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll talk to the audience. The other thing that you can do is in Feedly on Feedly.com, you can then export what's called an OPML file. And that file is basically just a bookmark of all your RSS feeds, every single one of them. And you can import that into other places. So you can import that, you can import that into other feed readers on iOS or on your iPad. You can import it into other browsers. There's all kinds of things you can do with that feed once you have exported out of Feedly.com. It's a really nice little quick way of getting news, especially for sites, if you follow them, that aren't updated on a regular basis. Things like CNET and Macworld and those kinds of websites are updated constantly. So you can go to CNET and Macworld once every couple hours and see new stories. Even The Loop, we publish 6, 7, 8 stories a day. But I don't want to have to go once an hour, twice an hour, once every 3 or 4 hours. I want to go when they have something interesting to me. And that's why an RSS feed where it just sends you the headlines is really, really useful. It takes a bit of time to, I think manage is the wrong word, but you've got to spend a little bit of time in setting up your feeds and setting up the categories you have on the left-hand side there. So in my Feedly thing, I probably got 30 or 40 different categories. I've got photography, I've got rumors, I've got Big Apple news, minor Apple news, I've got motorcycling, FJR, movies, TV shows, all kinds of whatever thing I'm interested in. I've got an RSS feed for a couple of dog adoption agencies around here, SPCAs around here, and for rescue groups. And so when they post up a new dog available for rescue or for adoption, it pops up my RSS feed. I don't have to go to their website every single day, hour, whatever it might be to find out the information. It comes right here. I can set up a RSS feed for my Flickr account. So if somebody posts to my Flickr account, they like a picture or they have a comment, it shows up in my RSS feed reader. So it's an easy way to grab the news that you want, the news that's important to you, so you don't have to go to the websites every single moment to find out the information. And there's RSS readers for everything. I was just saying, Melissa, that my RSS feed's probably got 30 different topics. So those 300 sites, they're broken up into 30 different categories.
And I'm sorry, but so if you want that, is the app on your desktop just to leave there? Or is it a tab that you use?
Good question. You can go to Feedly.com in your browser, or you can download the Feedly app.
Yeah, but on your
desktop, or download the Feedly app on your iPhone or your iPad. There's a bunch of them. There's Newsify, there's Newsreader. Just do a search on the iTunes Store or the Mac App Store for Newsreaders.
And there's not one that's, why is this RSS? Is that just a general term for all of them?
Yes, RSS is the technology, really simple syndication.
Okay.
Newsreaders are the general category. And then there are specific apps inside of that newsreader category.
I see.
Like I said, Newsify is one I've used on the iPad. Feedly is one you can use on the iPad. But I find doing it in the browser just as easy, again, for me, because I'm looking at a 27-inch monitor all day long. It's just easier for me to do it in my web browser right then and there.
Mm.
The other advantage of doing it this way is that I don't have to have another app. this just happens inside my browser, so I don't have to worry about things. Plus, in all the apps as well, you can, if you do in conjunction with things like a Read It Later app. Read It Later is the app that Pocket is the app that Melissa and I use, and you've used Pocket a little bit. You
Oh,
like
no,
Pocket.
I like Pocket. I still have things saved on Pocket.
When you click, I'm going to go back to the title only view in this. When you click on one of these stories, you can see there's actually a Pocket link in here. So if I click there, Read Later, it will send this article to my Pocket feed.
It's very nice.
So I can go through a bunch of stuff. Melissa will often say to me, what are you doing? And I'm just going through articles. And a lot of the time what I'm doing is just clicking on that Pocket link or that Read It Later link and sending those. I don't want to read them right now. They're not hugely important. I just want to get through this list of the 10,000 stories I'm looking at and dump those into Pocket. I can also do other things from here too. I can send them to Evernote. You can star them. You can email them to yourself or to other people. You can tweet them. You can share to Hootsuite. There's a whole bunch of Facebook, Instapaper, OneNote, all kinds of different ways.
So I have it open right now. So do I have to always just go here to the, I don't quite understand. I'll ask you later how I get it on my computer.
Yeah, it really is. Again, feedly.com, and they'll walk you through the process of signing up for it, signing into it, and then just in that search field, just start searching for topics that you like and hitting the follow button for those categories, for those articles, whether it be Macworld or Occupational Therapy World or Adopt a Dog World, and things will work out just fine.
I hope that answered Scott's question.
Thank you, Scott, for the question. It was a very good question.
Anyone can send me their questions.
Absolutely. You can send her questions to Melissa. Melissa at yourmaclifeshow.com. MELISSA.com. We have to run. Tonight's a shortened show because Melissa and I are off to learn more about beer. We're going to go to a local, our local brewery is having a beer 101 session.
$5.
We're going to $5. You get a flight of beer, you get taste testing, and you get to hang out with friends. What more could you want in our little small town, folks? Thank you guys very much for being tuned in. I appreciate it. As always, thanks to our friend Jim Dalrymple at The Loop at loopinsight.com for being here. Thanks to you guys for being tuned in either via the archive or the cool folks who are listening in live. Until next week, as always, I've been Shawn King.
I'm Melissa King.
And this has been your Mac Life.
Bye.
See ya.